On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we make our OU depth chart predictions. Then we talk about Oklahoma State's QR code thing, and we preview Florida State, Georgia Tech, and of course, we give you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, August 21st, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of August, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. You can almost smell it. You can almost taste it. It's close, Ted. We're close, my
I
man.
know. I know it. It's gonna be fun, man. I know I- it's close, but and I know we've built up a bunch of the games, and rightfully so. The opener's always fun, but it's not gonna be Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're gonna gradually ramp this thing up, which is good.
Yeah, I have been diving into some Temple film this week. Now they've got a bunch of transfers and they got a bunch of new pieces there on that football team. But that was a really bad football team last year. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Especially on defense. My goodness. But still, very, very excited for the opener. We're going to preview that game next Wednesday, like we preview all of them. We're not going to overlook the Temple Owls. It's
No way.
we can't change our formula, Ted. But
Yeah.
one thing before we get started, if your business wants to advertise on the podcast, please email us at the Oklahoma Breakdown at gmail.com. On to the OU football stuff. We're going to predict OU's depth chart, but when we put the podcast together, the first question we always ask is, what are OU fans talking about? Because if y'all are talking about it, then we figure that we should give our opinion on what y'all are talking about. It seems like that would be the most interesting thing for the OU fan base. And Ted, for whatever reason, that clip from Colin Cowherd from last summer saying, "Oh, you could be the next Nebraska," resurfaced, and Sooner Nation was riled up, and a bunch of the national college football people got a hold of it. I think for the first time, our buddy Josh Pate
Hey,
did
yeah, I
like
saw that.
5 minutes on it. I I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because we've talked about it, but where's your head at approximately 14 months later from when Cowherd said, "Oh, you could be the same Nebraska," because he basically said, "Oh, you has the chance to disappear like Nebraska did for 3 reasons. The state of Oklahoma no longer produces a big number of players." He said, "Oh, you joined a tougher conference." Duh. And then I believe the quote was Brent Venables is completely, utterly over his skis. They didn't get the coach right. So let let's maybe get your updated thoughts 14 months later from Cowherd dropping such brilliance upon us.
Well, first of all, let me just say that I think Coward is excellent at what he does. Um, he he's horribly wrong on this. Not only is he wrong, he sounds stupid. Um, he just the college football. He doesn't understand college football and how it operates right now. And that's fine. He also is a typical person that lives on the coast that knows how to drive from his mansion in Beverly Hills to the studios where he films his show, but has no other concept of what the geography of the United States looks like. Oklahoma has never produced a big number of players. We produce good, solid football players. I mean, the state of Oklahoma produced 2 Heisman Trophy winners in a 4-year span. I'd say that's pretty good, right? Guys from the state of Oklahoma, amongst a ton of other players. But, you know, recruiting has become nationwide. Number one. The majority of the players come from the geography of the conference the Sooners just joined. He's delusional on where the talent in college football is. I got news for people that maybe don't know this. California is the state that no longer produces a big number of players. For example, in this current recruiting cycle, there are two 5-star players in the entire state of California. I think they still have the largest population in the country. Maybe it's Texas. I think they've gotten closer, but 2 5-stars in the entire state compared with 8 5-stars in the state of Texas alone, and then 2 in the state of Kansas. So in driving distance, there's 10 5-star players, and if the day goes right, we're going to get one of those here at Oklahoma. So it's shocking. And back to how national recruiting has gone. I pulled this up earlier. Let me switch my picture over and look at it. State of California. The number 1 player in the state is going to the SEC. The number 2 player, SEC. The number 3 player, SEC. The number 4 player is going to USC. The number 5 player, SEC. 6th player, SEC. 7th player, Penn State, all the way across the country. 8th player, Notre Dame, all the way across the country. 9th player, SEC. 10th player in California, SEC. 11th player in California, Oregon. 12th undecided. 13th USC, or 13th SEC. 14 UCLA. In the top 20, they have 3 players that are staying in the state of California. 3 players out of the top 20.
That's crazy.
So it's crazy. Including one of the 20th is coming to Oklahoma. I mean, he is delusional about California and delusional about USC. The school that has the recruiting problem is the one that is right in his backyard, not Oklahoma. So I don't know. That's my quick little retort on his comments.
Brent Venables also bounced back pretty well in year 2.
Yeah.
Season wasn't what they wanted it to be, but still double-digit win season, good progress, and the roster is in a much better place from a size, length, and athleticism standpoint than it was when he took over. And you mentioned it, Ted. Cowherd's going to feel pretty stupid. Let's go with if, not when, if Michael Fasusi commits to Oklahoma today. He's making his decision later today. We'll talk about whatever that decision is on Sunday's episode. I can tell you OU is feeling very good about where they stand with Fasusi, and they know that's going to be a battle till signing day. Other teams won't be giving up on a 5-star offensive tackle no matter what he decides, but going to let that young man have his day today, and then we'll discuss it on Sunday, and hopefully it's a happy discussion because I really like what I see on tape from that guy.
Can that kid move or what?
I love
I
big
mean,
people that can move well.
oh,
I love it so much. It's my number one passion in football. Large human beings that move well. It's great. I love it.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what I'm looking at technique wise, but I've seen some videos of him like doing some like
Don't
kick
worry about the
drills and
technique
stuff
with
like
high
that.
school linemen. You'll
Yeah.
you'll come to college and they'll change a lot of it. Now you can see some things, but for me, when I watch a high school offensive lineman, it's all about movement patterns
Hmm.
and the edge that they play with. Because it's really hard to coach effort into a guy. Now you can improve it, don't get me wrong. But the overall just how does he move? How does he strike? And just what kind of what kind of stuff does he have to him? Those are usually the three things I'm looking at is like, hey, is this a guy that moves at an elite level? And is it a guy that when I when I watch the plays go, that guy likes contact. That's what I'm looking for.
Hmm.
Movement and violence. If you got those two things as a high school lineman, you got a chance in college, man.
Hmm. Yeah. He's an exciting player. Hopefully it goes well.
Come on, Fasusi.
Let's go.
Come on, man. All right. OU should be putting out a depth chart soon. I don't know if it's going to be Sunday or Monday. Well, we'll see. But we do it every year, Ted. Time to make our depth chart predictions. Let's start on the defensive side of the football. At the edge position, what are you thinking it's going to look like on the depth chart?
I'm I'm pretty locked in that I think it's going to be Downs and R. Mason Thomas. Um, Downs is, I mean, chisel that one into stone. Um, but the other spot, I think it's between R. Mason Thomas and Woolard. I'd give edge R. Mason Thomas, but Coach Venables last night at a press conference was he talked about R. Mason that he's got a chance to be the other edge guy opposite Ethan Downs. He's looked healthy to me through training camp. He's got pop. He's got great get off. His one-on-ones have looked really good, and I think he gives like a nice little. He's a change up to Downs. I think Caden Woolard's plays a lot closer to how Ethan Downs does. Heavy-handed guy. He's got some good pass rush moves, but our Mason Thomas is more of a speed get-off guy. So I like that combination. I would place it with a pretty high degree of certainty that he'll be the starter, but I think that Caden Woolard in a given game may end up playing a close amount of snaps as him. But for a starter, I would say it's probably R. Mason Thomas.
Downs and R. Mason Thomas probably the ones, and then I could see it being when you look at the twos line, it being a PJ or Caden Woolard or a PJ or Trace Ford. But I expect those three guys to be listed as twos: PJ,
Yeah.
Trace Ford, and Woolard.
I guess it wouldn't surprise me if Woolard was a or with R. Mason. I mean, that would be the only other thing that you
There's
could
I
see there.
I am predicting an or in the edge group with those. When you look at those five guys, I expect an or to be there. And we all know OU has used the ors very liberally in the past.
Yeah. Well, and another thing to think about, and I've talked about this, is like we've got a really good group there. I like that group. You know, while I think it's Downs and R. Mason Thomas, I think Trace Ford's like the starting edge guy whenever they go with their legit three-man front. So there's some different packages where guys are like they're the edge in those packages, but they're not the listed starter.
Are you projecting a double or situation at edge?
No, no double
Okay.
or.
Whew.
No double or.
Whew. That would have been. I think Downs is undoubtedly there's going to be no or associated with Ethan Downs,
Yep.
and I expect him to be a captain, which is a reminder that my number one complaint. This is pretty much the only complaint I have about OU football. Put the captaincy on the captain's jerseys, please. Never understood why we don't do it. I
It's
was a
because they
captain
have,
twice. You were a captain. Like you get to walk out first. Like it's a great feeling, but I've never understood why we don't give the captaincy. We should. It's just like being voted a captain was like my proudest moment as a football player.
yes.
And I think guys deserve that visible recognition. I feel passionately about that. I wish BV would implement that.
I am not a fan of the week by week captain thing.
Oh, hate it. I could not hate it any more than I hate it. But
It's
this
like,
is coming from two old guys that were both captains.
well, like whenever you go to like when you read someone's bio that played at OU, like if they were a captain, it's listed like was a captain in whatever year. Like that is a big deal. And when you change it week by week, it's like the equivalent of when your fifth grade teacher throws a pizza party on Friday. Oh, so and so's it's his birthday week, and you know what I'm saying? It's like, no,
I
no.
Downs needs a C. Stutzman needs a C. Yeah, I would assume Jackson Arnold. Those are guys that I feel strongly about it. It's been my top complaint about the way that we do
Mm-hmm.
things. But hey, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But how cool would our jerseys look if they would have had a C on them? Ted,
They'd look amazing.
I know. It's just frustrating. What are you doing? Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, walking out. This is why you
OU
got to watch on
Texas.
YouTube, people. We got a hand in hand. What we got? Derek Strait,
Is that Ronaldo? Derek
Ronaldo,
Strait, Ronaldo, myself, and Corey Klein.
Corey Klein. Wow, studs.
But
It's a lot of
you know
shoulder
what I'm
pad.
saying? Yeah, it is. A lot of shoulder pad. But that stuff is cool. And like you said, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Put the C's on the jerseys. Come on,
Mm-hmm.
BV, do the right thing. Wow, we really got sidetracked there. How about that? Interior defensive line. This one's going to be interesting, Ted. Who do you think the two starters are?
Oh my gosh. Dominic Williams is going to be a starter. And I'm like I'm like 60-40 Jaden Jackson over Dejon Terry. Wouldn't surprise me if Terry gets the nod um, as the older player, and you got Jaden Jackson as the true freshman. Big deal though, as a true freshman, like to be able to be a starter game one coming out, like that would be awesome. And I know him and Dominic Williams, they work really well together. They communicate really well. I mean, they do some really good stuff whenever they're out there. So, if you're making me pick, I'd say Dominic Williams and Jaden Jackson.
I think it's going to be an or situation with
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Jackson and Dejon Terry. And if I had to bet money, I think Terry probably runs out there first. And it kind of comes that opinion comes from personal experience. In 2010, I was the starting left guard. And 2 days before the game, Patton came to me and said, "Hey, Stephen Good's getting the first series." And I lost my stuff. I was furious because I had outplayed him. I had had a better training camp. Like I'd been starting all of camp. It was like, we're going to give the old guy the nod. I was pissed, but ended up outplaying. Yeah, it started the rest of the season. Okay. And it was one of those moments where like sometimes they just give the old guy the nod. I could see Terry running out there first, but Jaden Jackson is a starter in my mind. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking it'll be Dominic Williams, and then the depth chart will say Jaden Jackson or Dejon Terry. Probably Terry's name listed first, out of respect for a guy that's been there longer. And then Grayson Halton and David Stone as the twos. Devon Sears, Ashton
Yeah,
Sanders.
I think probably I I would say probably Grayson Holton and Sears and Sanders. But I don't know. Like it's so messy that once you get like even the starting lineup is messy when it comes to defensive line. It's like they go out there for the first couple of plays of each series, and then after that point, it's just like you throw it in the blender.
But you know,
But
it matters who's listed on the
oh, I
top
know
line on this thing.
for sure, for sure. Um, but like starters, Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson, I think it will be an or situation there, and then below that, I mean, Grayson Holton definitely a two. And then I think either probably Sears or Sanders is the other number two.
I'll be surprised if Stone isn't on there.
Yeah.
I think you want to keep the young guy hungry. I think you find a way, and maybe they go three deep on it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, when I've been out there, I think he does, he pretty often will jog out there with the two group, but not every time.
Right.
So
Linebacker, Mike and Will. What do you think?
I think it's going to be, I think you're probably going to have an or situation here, perhaps, but I think Stutzman and Kip Lewis are going to be your first two. I mean, they're the two best, in my opinion,
Stutzman
at
at
the moment.
Mike, Kip Lewis at Will. What's that? What's that second team going to look like?
I think it's going to be probably, I think Kobe will probably be, he'll probably be the Mike. And then I think Stutzman's like the second team Will, or I mean, I don't know how it's going to be listed there because they kind of mix and match on the second team. But I think Kobe McKenzie will definitely be the second team Mike, and then maybe Lewis Carter there. Yeah, Lewis
It
Carter,
seems like
perhaps.
those would be the four names on. If you're talking about a true two
Yeah,
deep, you're going to have Stutzman and Kip Lewis on the top line, and then Kobe McKenzie and Lewis Carter on the second line.
right.
Or and maybe
It's
Canick gets an or.
yeah. See, it's hard because like when I think of a backup situation, I think it's Stutzman and Kip Lewis. Okay, if Kip goes down, like the number two Will doesn't go in. Stutzman would move over to Will, and Kobe McKenzie would come in at Mike. So that's why it's hard to say who the number two Will is, but I think it will be those four in some fashion.
I think the most interesting part about that conversation is Stutzman has the speaker in his helmet. Does he keep the speaker on if Kobe comes in, or do they give Kobe the speaker?
That's Stutzman would keep it.
I think, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that he's vocal enough.
Yeah. And I don't even know. I'm anxious to watch that interaction in a game to see like how it all kind of plays out. Because the way college football works, it doesn't no one huddles. And if they don't huddle, defensively you don't huddle. So you have to signal everything in anyways. And it's the same thing on offense. You don't get in a huddle. If you don't get in a huddle, the helmet communication thing is basically just for some tips and reminders. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how that works.
Cheetah. Cheetah is like the position I'm most confident in when it comes to the starter. Every time I've been out there, it's Kendall Dolby.
Yeah.
I guess other than like Stutzman and Billy Bowman, like Kendall Dolby, I think is an absolute lock to be the starter at Cheetah.
Yep.
And he's had a great training camp. I do think it's going to be interesting who is listed as the two at Cheetah. What do you think? Omasigo. I mean, Desan
Yep.
McCullough hasn't practiced at all.
Yeah. I
Peyton
think it's going to be
Bowen,
almost a go.
you think it's Omasigo?
Mm-hmm. I don't know how much Peyton. I don't think Peyton Bowen has played much at that spot. I could be wrong, um, but I think it will be Omosigo. He's the one that I've seen go out there with the second unit.
Man, he looks
So
good in a jersey.
he does. He moves well. He'll strike. He's Kendall Dolby is a corner background, and Omosigo's a linebacker background. So they're different players. I think Venables would like to move to a little bit more of a hybrid backer than he would a hybrid corner. But what Kendall Dolby has given them, and I guess maybe that's just a matchup. It depends who you're playing on a week by week basis, but Kendall Dolby's been excellent, man.
Safety. Billy Bowman.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The other safety position, I think it's the most obvious or on the entire football team. I think you're going to get Robert Spears Jennings or Peyton Bowen at that other safety spot. Agree?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably so. Probably so. I mean, Billy Bowman's going to play. Obviously, he's never going to come out of the game in critical moments or in a tight football game. But like Robert Spears Jennings, Peyton Bowen's going to play in every game. How much? What exact spot? Not totally sure, but he's going to play in every game. So, I mean, you're right. It would not shock me at all if there's an or there. And frankly, I think this is one of those like position battles. Like I don't necessarily want to call it a battle, but I think this thing's going to go all season long. And it may trend differently from a couple of weeks to the next, exactly who's getting the most snaps.
I do think who's listed as the twos at the safety spot will be interesting. You've got the young guys, right? Hardy, Powers, Boganowski. Will they all be listed as twos? I'm not sure. Like, can you fit that many guys on a depth chart, or do you just have to pick one or two of those guys?
Probably. I mean, I think since you got Bowman and RSJ and Peyton Bowen as on the one line, then it wouldn't shock me if you had oars on the two line also. And I think they're legit. If someone went down on the first unit, I think it could differ from what offense you're seeing, what some matchups look like. I think it could be different at different points in the season. So I think, a lot of time the or is kind of to keep people from feeling bad or to maybe not give any hints as to who's going to be at a certain position for your opponent. But I think there's several of them on here that I think they're legitimate ors. It could depend on who you're playing.
Devon Jordan somewhere at safety spot. They like his versatility as a young guy. Shout out to Union. I'm interested to see, does he make it on there? Because a lot of the coaches, when I've been out there, have said, hey, this young guy can play. So do we see him somewhere in the safety group on the depth chart? This is what I know. OU's really excited. This staff's really excited about the young guys in the back end of that defense. Really excited.
Hey, I think whenever you look at who's on campus right now and kind of what like the current recruiting class, what it looks like, it's going to be Oklahoma is going to have one of, if not the best safety room over the next 3 or 4 years, or maybe even beyond, than anyone in the country. I mean, they are loaded with really good players, and I'm excited about and there's some guys like depending on how things play out, there's potential like superstar players just kind of hanging around right now. Boganowski, Powers, Hardy. I mean, those guys, and they're getting to learn from the veteran players, which is so good it's so different whenever you can come into a system and you got a fourth year starter in Billy Bowman that you can learn from, that knows what's going on. It just makes the development process go into overdrive. It's so much faster.
The only thing those young guys have to overcome is Brandon Hall's coaching. I'm kidding, B Hall. For those of you that don't know, B
Hey,
Hall's like a football genius. It's a joke. It's a joke.
what they're going to have to overcome is Brandon Hall's recruiting.
Hey, that's a good point too. That man is not slowing down at all.
No, because he is every year he is loading them up with talented players, man. So it's impressive.
Last position on defense, and it's probably the hardest to predict. I'm sorry, Ted. What do you think? What do you think this depth chart's going to look like at corner?
I think it will be some combination of Gentry or Kanai or Jacoby Johnson on one side and Woody Washington or Des Malone or Eli Bowen on the other.
Hold on. You're saying quadruple or at the
No,
corner spot?
I think it'll be you'll probably have an or on both starting lines at corner.
I agree with that. I
And
just don't
again,
know.
I
I
think
don't know
it's
what
legit.
four it's going to be. I think it'll be the older guys. I think the combination of Gentry Williams, Kenai Walker, Woody Washington, and Des Malone, I think those will be the four in the or situation at the starting spot.
Yes,
And then I think Jacoby Johnson and Eli Bone will be listed on there as well. They feel really good about these six guys.
I know. Just think about like how many legitimate spots where I mean we're kind of sure who's going to jog out first, but like the competition has been so good that we expect a bunch of like legitimate oars in the starting spots. Like if you compare that with last year and the previous year, it's just not close.
I I just have a hard time imagining that Woody Washington won't run out there first against Temple.
Totally agree.
But do you think there is part of Zach Alley and Britt Venables that looks at the size combo of Des Malone and Kanai Walker? They're like, let's just go set the tone. Put those two guys out there on
It
the field.
just looks good, you know. So no,
Just
I
looks good.
I understand that. In it's the great thing you get with Woody Washington is you know exactly what you're going to get. Scrappy, tackles well, and he's got some position flexibility for you if you were to ever get in a bind on some stuff. Like if you get stacked up with injuries and you need some veteran guys to still be out there. So um, I do think Woody Washington will be taking the first reps at corner.
On to the offensive side of the football. QB1, Jackson Arnold. I think the most interesting part about the QB depth chart is what does QB2 look like?
Yeah.
I think Mike Hawkins is the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he's the second string quarterback. But is this a situation with a veteran guy like Casey Thompson where you do put, hey, Casey Thompson or Mike Hawkins? I could see that happening. But with that being said, I think Mike Hawkins I think he's QB2. So what do you think it's going to look like on the depth chart, Ted?
Jackson is one, and on the depth chart, I could see it listed as or. And maybe there's some legitimacy to that. You know, if you're playing Tennessee and you're nursing a lead in the second half and your starting quarterback goes down, I mean, it's not outlandish to suggest that you put the veteran that's played in a bunch of big football games in there to get you through the rest of the game. So maybe there's some legitimacy there, but it's Arnold is one, Hawkins is two, and Thompson is three. I mean, that's what I've seen when I've been out there.
Yeah, agreed. On to running back. Gavin Sawchuk or Javonte Barnes?
probably. But I think
That's how
Salchuk
it's
is,
that's how it's
yeah,
felt to me.
I think Salchuk is the incumbent, and Barnes has been great. Hicks, Franklin, the youngster, Tatum, those guys have been really solid. I don't think anyone to this point in training camp, it can be hard to unseat someone in training camp. You got to go out there and prove it on the field. But I think Salchuk is still kind of king on the hill until someone is able to outproduce him on the field, and they may not be able to.
I think Sawchuk is the most reliable. I think it's who the staff trusts the most. With that being said, I think Javonte Barnes, I think he can be a more productive player with the way that he has been practicing, the way that he looks, the mental focus he has now.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has the potential to be the best back for this team this season. But it's going to take you a couple games to prove you can go out there, keep your composure, be assignment sound, and go make plays.
Yes.
I think he's got a couple of games to prove maybe that, hey, he is the best option for this football team this season. But they know exactly what they're getting with Sawchuk. Assignment sound. Now, of course, he's got the home run speed, but I think his greatest strength is his reliability.
Yeah.
Now, he's got to stay healthy. Got to keep those hammies healthy, Sawchuk. But I think they feel like they can absolutely rely on him in any situation, no matter what the defense throws at you, to do the right thing out there on the field. Now, after those two guys, that's where it gets a little interesting. Hicks, Franklin, Tatum, Robinson, does he make an appearance on there? I don't know. Part of me thinks Hicks and Tatum are going to be the other names on there, but it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how they handle the one spot. If it's dedicated straight to Salchuk, and I don't think there's a reason that it shouldn't be from the get-go, then that really muddies it up. What does the depth chart look below that?
Is it simplest just to hey Sawchuk at 1, Barnes at 2, and that's it? That'd be kind of hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah.
NFL style, too deep.
It wouldn't shock me if you had Sawchuk as 1 and then a bunch of oars at 2 also. But I will say this, and I know this really isn't the exercise, but it feels like it's been a while, and fingers crossed on health, and it needs to carry over to the game. Like, we haven't seen it carry over to the game, but I feel like at 1, 2, and maybe even third string running back, I think this may be the best the running back room has looked in a while. Now, Eric Gray, you had star power, right? And we haven't seen anyone look like Eric Gray yet. I think Salchuk's got the ability, perhaps. I think Barnes could be even a better runner. But as far as the depth, like, if Salchuk and Barnes are your two backs, there's not hardly any fall off right there. Where do you think that is level wise for SEC backfields?
I think it's solid.
Top half, probably.
Top
right?
half. But the bottom line is, we haven't seen either of these guys compete on a week by week basis at the level they're about to have to compete. How do they hold up? That's a big question mark. I mean, these are two guys that have been banged up throughout their career.
Good point.
So they look good. They're not the biggest backs in the world. Neither of those guys like a 220-pound back. But they've got good speed. They've got good explosiveness. I really like the physicality Barnes has been running with in training camp.
How big is he? He's got to be 215, right?
I think he's all of 210.
Yeah.
I think he's a really lean in the best way, like 210, 211, maybe like 212.
He's carrying bone and muscle. There ain't any extra weight there.
Could not look better.
Yeah.
But it's just, how do those guys hold up? And that's the thing is, do I think we have better backs than Georgia or Alabama?
No.
It's hard to say yes to that until these guys go out and play in this league.
Right. No, I totally agree.
Tight end. Maybe the easiest depth chart on the team. TE1, Bauer Sharp. TE2, Jake Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
TE3 listed on there.
Helms.
TE3. Please just stay healthy, man.
I think they're excited about him.
Just stay healthy, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man. He
had a
looks
big time injury. Well, what was that? Do you know exactly what it was?
From my understanding, they basically just had to like realign one of his legs.
Yeah.
It sounded like with the knee as the focal point. It sounded gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
So,
so it's been really slow coming back for him, but
I'm cheering for that guy because he
Yeah.
looks awesome out there.
and he gives them something that they don't like. And I'm not saying, we all know Bauer Sharp, he runs really well. He's athletic and he's got some good size. I think he's probably taller, at least listed taller than Helms, but Caden Helms has he's just long arms, can run, can jump. Like he ain't gonna be like Bauer Sharp is in the box, but
we don't need him to be.
No, as a split out guy, he brings something big time.
He is something, a healthy version of Caden Helms. Please just get healthy. A healthy version of him is something this football team has not had in a long time. Like just a true move tight end.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put you in some positions where you got a double team on, a gap scheme or a zone scheme, but we're not leaving you on an island in pass protection. We're not asking you to run essentially ISO with the zone lead play, right? Just catch some passes.
Mm-hmm.
Just work in space. Block the force defender, block the alley defender, block smaller guys. Like
just show some speed and rip a seam route. Like just when you blow past the guy and the safety's got to come over the top, I mean, that creeps into people's heads.
I'm in no way comparing Caden Helms to Travis Kelce. That would be insane to do. But that's how you would use him. Andy Reid does not put Kelce in any situations where he's at the point of attack blocking. Now he'll mix it up. Don't get it wrong. I actually think that he doesn't get enough credit for how willing he is to mix it up. But that's the type of move tight end Helms could be if he's just right physically. The problem is that I'm going to have to see it before I believe it. Yeah. Man, I want that kid to succeed so badly because I just feel like he has had the worst luck imaginable his first couple years.
He's got time. I don't even think, has he even, I'm sure he medicaled and then redshirted, right? So he hasn't burned a year yet.
I can't imagine. No.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got time. I think eligibility wise, he is a true freshman.
Yeah.
So just can he get right? And if he gets right, I do think he's the type of player that I don't want to say it'll change your offense, but it adds a completely new dimension to what you can do offensively with the tight end position.
Totally agree.
Especially if you have him and Sharp on the field together.
I know.
Where both of those guys can really, really run.
Yep. And that's
now
the
I'm getting
dilemma.
Excited. Now I'm getting excited over here. Come on, Caden Helms. Be healthy, big dog. Come on.
Because what personnel grouping is that? Is it 12 or are you still in 11? Because that's the problem you get in as a defense.
I think if it were me, I play it as 11 and I make Caden Helms prove to me that he can block
He can
somebody.
block. Yeah.
I think that's how most defenses would play it initially. There's we can spend all day on this, the pros and cons of playing.
Well, yeah, because the offense is saying we're treating it like 12, and we're going to make one of those defenders prove they can tackle in the
Exactly.
box.
Just
You know?
put Helms on the backside of all these runs, man.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, we have gotten derailed a little bit,
Yeah,
but
that's a conversation for another day.
let's let's plow forward. Wide receiver. Starters, Nick Anderson, Deion Burks, Jaleel Farouk. Agree?
Yep.
Twos, Andrell Anthony, and it was good to hear Venables say at his media availability that Andrell Anthony has no limits right now. That is extremely positive. I continue to believe you don't need that guy until Tennessee. Take your time.
Maybe intermittently let him get, like, it'd be nice to have him get some reps, like be out there on the field,
Wet the
go
beak.
through some full speed game stuff, but maybe not throwing him the slant or something right out of the gate. But yeah, that was awesome to hear.
The other guys behind Anderson, Burks, and Farouk, I think you'll see Anthony, Hester, Thompson, and Petaway. Does that
Yeah,
feel like that encompasses all the guys that we expect to be significant contributors, at least early in the season?
I think so. I think so. I think that's the right list.
Offensive line. I I don't know who's going to be ready for the opener. You heard Venable say that he thinks every guy in that room has a chance to play in the opener, which is a great sign. It tells you that the guys that are in that room that are banged up, it's nothing extremely serious, which is a good thing. When you look at the depth chart, I think if everyone were healthy, it's Tarquin at left tackle, Taylor at left guard. I think you'll have an or at center between Josh Bates and Branson Hickman. You'll have Fabechi Weebu at right guard and Jake Taylor listed as the starting right tackle. That being said, I got no clue who's going to run out first against Temple. But I think that the exercise we were going through is predicting the depth chart. I think Parquin, Taylor, or between Bates and Hickman, Fabechi, and then Jake Taylor at listed as first team right tackle.
Yeah.
That's one of those pauses where people think that like something happened to their phone.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, it just depends on how messy they want it to look like, because you got multiple guys that are playing multiple positions and can be oars at different spots. But I think the way that you laid it out is the most likely format that you'll see.
I expect Hito Zada to be the second name listed at left guard. I guess that could be an or. And then Sexton could be listed as an or at left tackle, which would be nice and confusing. He's
That's what I'm saying.
a starter at left guard and left tackle. Because I do think that is a variation of the left side that we're going to see in the Temple game. Is Sexton at left tackle and Ozida at left guard. Hatchett, Garen Hatchett, I think he's going to be listed as a 2 at some interior spot. And I won't be surprised at all if he starts in the opener. Like if he runs out with the first group.
Yeah. Well, now let me ask you this. At center, and I know we don't know what the injuries are and where they are. Venable said that everyone has a chance to play. How how conservative do you think they'll play it in the first game against Temple? Because if you can play, should you play? I mean, the last thing that they need is to have some type of big setback with anyone.
I think the Temple game is different than Houston and Tulane.
Agree.
Temple's a bad football team.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of the worst teams in what was the Power Five. And I guess they're Power Six, whatever you want to call it, with them being in the American. They've got a lot of new players. I still think they're going to be a very bad football team. I think you treat Temple more like a true NFL preseason game.
Yeah.
And so if Hickman and Bates aren't feeling great leading into the game, I think you just play Hatchet at center. And I like Hatchet. I've only seen the guy practice a couple times. He has got the proper amount of stuff to him. And if you play him at center, like I think that's where, from a size perspective, like that's his most natural fit. Mm-hmm. If he's going to play in the NFL, his best position he can play is center.
Yeah.
So I just don't know, man. Like, is Spencer Brown going to run out there at right tackle? I think he'll be listed as the second right tackle. Does he start the opener? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, we got time. We got time.
Just get ready for Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way that I see it. You're going to have to lean on the defense these first couple games anyways.
Yeah.
You got to get your offensive line as healthy as possible for that Tennessee game, and just trust that your defense, that you think is going to be one of the best in the conference, one of the best in the country, can just dominate three inferior opponents and get you to that game. I'm not saying you got to coach scared offensively or be super, super conservative with your play calling, but you have to have like the end goal in mind.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do as a player and certainly as a coach, because you're like, no, we got to take it week by week by week. But everything should be geared to like, hey, and I don't want to say it's a terrible way of putting it, but like, let's get through these first three and get to that fourth one.
Right. Yeah.
I can say that as someone that just talks about what's going on with the team. You can't say that in a meeting room, but I think does that have to be kind of in the back of the coaching staff's mind?
I think it's in the front, first and foremost of their mind. You know, it's your typical coach move is Temple. If a couple of different things happened last year, they would have been undefeated. Right. And they're coming in here with just one of the best teams. That's how it always goes. But you're still going to do that. But you have to understand that the setback is the worst thing that you can have. And I don't know how you necessarily play it. Like, if you have three guys or however many that are playing the same position that are all kind of banged up and there's still a battle maybe as to who is going to be your starter, do you spread the risk and play those guys, like spread them out, or do you just give everyone more time and try and hang on and get through that week? Like, because what we've got a long time before we play Tennessee. If you don't have a setback, all of those guys should be back and probably feeling pretty daggum good by the time you play Tennessee, right? And that's really a month.
Let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys the position you're most interested in seeing on OU's depth chart. This one comes from Misty Dawn. Kicker. Got to know who I'm doing prayer circles for.
I don't
Keltner
know.
or Schmidt, man. Sounds like it's a true battle.
I don't know. What do you think of the two kicker system?
I hate it.
I do too.
I want a guy to every time he runs out there, he feels like he's the man and he's confident. That's what I want.
Yeah. And I've seen a very small sample size, but it looks to me, and this may be totally wrong because I'm always like, oh yeah, I need to watch the kickers and it's kind of late, but Zach Schmidt has a freaking bomb of a leg.
He
He
has hit
kills the football.
every time I've been out there, he has hit at least a 55 yarder or longer.
Oh yeah. And
Right down the pipe.
they're good by a long shot too.
Oh, a couple of them have been good by from like 65. Easy.
Right. So
maybe Venables saying that Keltner was the odds-on favorite was the little kick in the rear end that Jack Schmidt needed. My gosh.
I know.
Here's the bottom line with Schmidt, dude. And I do not hide the fact I am cheering for that young man. He went to the same high school as me. He's just going to have to go do it in games. That's it. Like if he wins the job, which it sounds like he's right there in the mix, it's about going and making kicks in games. That is how he will be judged, and the OU fan base is going to doubt him and groan and say why until he goes out there and hits a bunch of kicks, and then they will love him. That's how it works, that position. It's just how it works.
It ain't easy. You may get one opportunity a game. You may get one opportunity every other game. You may get 6 opportunities in one game. You don't know, and just go out there and make them. But every time I see him kick, I mean, he drives the football. Keltner does not have the leg. And I kind of get them mixed up because Schmidt's 36 and the freshman's 35, right? Or did I flip that?
I should know this.
I think they're 36 and 35, and then Keltner's 98. So
Keltner's the easiest one to spot because he's 98. I thought Schmidt was 34, dude. Now you've got me really confused.
Maybe it's 34 and 35.
Yeah, Schmidt's 34. Okay. Whew, 34. I thought I was losing my mind there for a second.
Well, I don't know. Keltner, his leg does not look very live to me. But
from what I've seen, and look at it. I can't believe we're spending this much time on kickers.
I know.
It looks, if you're just talking about, for a golf analogy, like who's strongest off the tee, it's Schmidt.
Yep.
Of the entire group. That dude can absolutely drive it.
Yep. If you just happen to walk into practice, you'd say that guy's the starting kicker. Right?
I think that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Let's get to the college football roundup. But first, fuel your journey at Love's Travel Stops and save 10 cents per gallon on gas and auto diesel. Download the Love's Connect app today. It takes just seconds to unlock savings when you scared your barcode in the app at the pump. This discount and other mobile deals on drinks and snacks are available at more than 640 Love's locations across the country. Before your next trip, download the Love's Connect app, your guide to savings on the road.
A lot of things are changing for OU football heading into the SEC, but one thing is remaining the same: the football. Go to biggameusa.com/breakdown to order the official game ball of the Oklahoma Sooners. The Nike Vapor Elite, exclusively from Big Game Football Factory, is the only authentic football that OU will use on game day. It's got the OU and SEC logos on it and is the perfect gift for any Sooner fan. Each ball comes with a certificate of authenticity to certify the football received was commissioned and created to the specifications requested by the Sooners. Go to biggameusa.com/breakdown and order yours today.
And we are brought to you by Simple Modern, the Oklahoma-owned drinkware company and #1 drinkware sales leader on Amazon and Target. And this year, Simple Modern is now the official drinkware sponsor of University of Oklahoma Athletics. Keep on the lookout. You're sure to spot exclusive drinkware options at all home games so you can stay hydrated while supporting your favorite Oklahoma team. And with 10% of all Simple Modern profits going to charity, many right here in Oklahoma, you'll also know you're helping Oklahomans off the field as well. Simple Modern, good everywhere. College Football Roundup. Oklahoma State is embracing the QR code, Ted. It's pretty interesting what they're doing, putting QR codes on their helmets. That will allow people to scan it. It will take those people to their NIL collective pokes with a purpose. It takes them right to a donation page. I guess you can donate to the whole squad, or you can select individual players. Mike Gundy released a statement. This is a revolutionary step forward to help keep Oklahoma State football ahead of the game. It gives a chance for everyday fans across the world to have a real impact when it comes to supporting the NIL efforts for Cowboy football. I'm thrilled about this opportunity for our players. Ted, what was your initial reaction to the QR code situation there in Stillwater?
I I got no problem with it. I think it's a fascinating. I guess I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work. Like if let's say Ollie Gordon scores a touchdown and they zoom in on the back of the helmet there on the jumbotron, and everyone, can you scan it from there? I don't know how it works, but can you imagine if he rips off a 80-yard run in the fourth quarter to go ahead against Utah, and you could just scan the code and Venmo money directly to him at that moment? How crazy that is. And I don't know. It's the implications or the direction it could all go is just fascinating to me. It's weird. It's different. I understand the people that are hesitant. I mean, people are always hesitant to change, and it's not just football. It's everything. So I guess I I don't know. I expected a little bit of that type of stuff, but to me, you have to do it. You have to keep up. You can't just not play the NIL game and expect to be a competitive college football team. So in that regard, I think it's genius.
If OU did it, we'd be praising them for it.
Oh
Now,
well,
not everyone would like it. I understand that, but this is how I see it. I don't see any negatives to this for Oklahoma State.
no.
You're
Well,
you're not in what is now the Power Two, right? The SEC and the Big Ten. You have to find ways to get headlines and to get recruits and transfers attention. Now, the best way to do that is by winning football games and sending guys to the National Football League. But the next thing on the list is doing creative stuff like this to get players' attention. And from what I understand, they're going to put that QR code on their Jumbotron. They're going to put it on billboards around campus so that when people are tailgating, they can scan it. They're going to put it in restaurants and bars in Stillwater. They're going to put it all over social media. They're going to put it everywhere. So I think my only criticism is if you're going to do this, you got to fully embrace it. That QR code needs to be right on the front of the helmet.
I was saying, like, if I was a player, I'd request the QR code as my number. just
Yeah.
a big block QR code on my jersey.
But
No,
you throw it
yeah,
on the front and let guys, like, you score a touchdown. Ollie Gordon goes and puts his face up to the television camera so everyone at home,
pay me.
pay me, baby. I I understand that some people don't like what college football has become. I get that. But it is what it is. We're here. I think this is smart from Oklahoma State.
Well, here's the thing. If they have just a tiny bit of success with it, well, don't complain too loudly because every school in the country is going to do it instantly. If they get $100,000 or $50,000, whatever that number is, pumped into the NIL fund just from the QR codes on game day, well, surprise, surprise, every team in college football is doing QR codes on their helmets in week 2 of the season. Right? I mean, if it's successful, everyone else is going to do it too.
No doubt. And I'm really interested to see. I don't know if they're going to report any of the numbers, maybe like on a game by game basis. I don't know if you want to put, you probably don't want to put individual guys' numbers out there like that, but I'm really interested to see how it works out for them.
Why not? Okay, let me ask you a question.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but
it's a different avenue. Is it just like the built-in college football mindset of we can't pay the players, we can't talk about paying the players, we've never been like, is that why everything is still like you can't get anyone to even, it's like as soon as you bring it up, everyone goes into like filter mode.
It's so strange because with the NFL, everyone knows exactly how much these guys make.
Yeah. How much they make, how much they get fined. That's $15,000 fine, $25,000 fine, hitting the quarterback in the helmet like that.
If I was Oklahoma State, and once again, if you're Mike Gundy in that staff, you're trying to have all the ammunition you can have to convince guys to come play football in Stillwater. If you can show them an Olive Gordon run as a highlight and then say, he got $20,000 for this one play in our stadium.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That is how I would do it if I were them. I'd be like, that would be part of my recruiting pitch. Like, hey, we do it this way. You make big plays in Stillwater, this is what happens. Like, and if you're a high school kid or a transfer, like if they can line up the play and then show you the dollar amount that coincides with it, that's just like, those are real numbers that get people's attention.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting, it's a great move, and it's one that I'm sure is going to grow into other things. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's one of those, like, if you're Oklahoma State, it's made some, headlines, which is interesting. It probably got some people thinking about it, but now that I think about it, if I'm Mike Gundy, I don't think I'd walk out to the podium after game 1 and be like, we made $1 million with the QR codes, because everyone's going to do it, right? Like, keep it in your back pocket. Like you said, a recruit comes into town, you may say, hey, come here, let me show you how this whole thing went down in the football game.
If it's really, really successful, I'd just keep it. I'd save that recruiting pitch for the guys that I really want.
Yeah.
Now, people are gonna find out eventually. That's what people do. Somehow, some way, Pete Thamel is gonna get his hands on that information. You know what I mean?
It would be awesome if you could show it in real time. It's like
a meter. People love a meter.
Ollie Gordon, he's to the 50, he's to the 4, and it's just like blink, 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 blink. The account just starts to go up.
This kind of goes back to what we talked about last episode with Mike Gundy. He's got no problem with players getting more NIL during the season.
Right.
He just said, hey, agents, leave me alone. Don't ask me for any more money when it comes to players' base salary, their base pay. Mm-hmm. So, Gundy, big QR code guy. I hope he wears a giant QR code. You know how he's always got the hoodie on? Yeah. It's like a giant QR code on his chest. Oh, you think I don't want my players to make money? Here's a giant QR code where my players could make money. I think that'd be hilarious.
Every question afterwards. So, what do you think of the QR code? Scan it. Go check out our NIL phone. That's all you got to do. All the information's there. He's awesome. I love that guy. He's done an incredible job, and I think they're going to have a good football team this year.
I think we may be getting Nick Martin on the podcast.
Ooh, stud.
We really like him. We'll see. It may be Sunday. He may be joining us, which could be, it'd be good to hear, from who I believe is their best player other than Ollie Gordon.
Mhm.
See kind of where the mindset with Oklahoma State is with the season ramping up. Week 0 is upon us,
Ooh,
and we've got a top 10 team that's in action in
I
Dublin,
know.
and it's a
I
conference game.
know. I
Number 10
know.
Florida State takes on Georgia Tech in Dublin. Currently, Florida State, a 11.5 point favorite. Let's just start here, Ted. Interested in this game? I mean, you got an ACC game kicking things off with a Florida State team that's got to replace a ton of talent
Yes.
from a really, really good football team last season, but a lot of interesting things in this game. And I think got to start with all eyes are going to be on DJ Uiagalelei and how he looks at the quarterback position, replacing Jordan Travis for the Knowles.
This is like this is going to be the test, and it's a good early test. Georgia Tech, um, you know, they've changed styles, and everyone knows that. But solid football team a year ago. Played some people tough. Played Georgia really tough at the end of the year. Um, I I don't know if the Florida State climb is real or not real, or if it's going to last, or if they just happen to have the right group, all stay there together, win a bunch of games, and now they're all gone. Has the development and the recruiting behind that been able to? Is that going to be able to sustain what they did over the last couple of years? Because it was a pretty quick rise with pretty much all the same players, and now the biggest share of those guys are gone. I mean, this is a tough opening test for Florida State. I tend to believe that Florida State is going to take a bit of a dip. Does that mean they lose to Georgia Tech in the opener in Dublin? No, I don't think so. But I think we're probably going to have a legitimate football game.
I don't know if DJ Uiagalelei is the same type of playmaker as Jordan Travis. He certainly doesn't move the way that Travis did, and his ability to kind of extend plays and make things happen with his legs. But Florida State's offensive line, it's a veteran group. They should be better up front, but they also got to replace some big time playmakers at running back and wide receiver. So
Star power, yep.
I think the offense, I think that's going to be really interesting to watch for Florida State. And on the other side of things with Georgia Tech, Haynes King is fun, man. I like watching that guy play. He's going to have. I think he's going to have to be special in this one to make it interesting, because Florida State's defensive line, they churned out a couple high draft picks, but they are still legit.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the better groups in the country up front, and I think their staff's feeling really, really good about where they're at as a defensive line. But Haynes King is a mobile guy. He's not scared to take some risks pushing it down the field. Like I'm excited to watch Haynes King play football this weekend.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's kind of hard to know. Like, what do you think? Is there? I would say it's a detriment probably for Florida State playing the neutral side overseas.
I think as long as you get the number of home games that you want, it's fine. If I was Florida State, I would only agree to do this if it doesn't cost me one of my home games.
Well, yeah. I guess I'm talking about like.
Oh, you think they've got nothing to gain?
Well, I just think competitively, I feel like going and playing the game over there and kind of spinning the week or however they're doing it, kind of like a bowl. I guess I think it's to some degree an equalizer.
What could possibly go wrong taking a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds to a city where there's a pub about every 100 feet?
Lots, lots. And
It's
I
team
don't know,
bonding, Ted. Come on.
the the footing at times can be a bad situation because it's a different sport, and the footing requires, a different field. And I'm sure they're on top of that and getting all that done. But we've seen in the past when you can have some stuff be a factor like that. I don't know. Maybe Florida State rolls up with a better, deeper roster like they should, and goes out and dominates the football game. Like that would be the logical way that this thing unfolds. But if Haynes King starts rolling around, making a couple of things happen, you're in a weird place. Like, you're not in a home crowd. You don't have a bunch of fans there. Like, I don't know how people are going to travel. So I don't know. It has what could potentially be an exciting game.
Georgia Tech coming off an encouraging year with Brent Key as the head coach. Got to be better defensively, but the ACC overall, Ted, it feels like it's going to be really fun this season. You got Florida State, Clemson, obviously still in the mix. People are either really high or low on Miami. You've got NC State, Virginia Tech have some serious offseason buzz. Louisville, they played for the title. They played for the ACC title last year. So I don't know. It feels like we're all focused on the Big Ten and the SEC, and there's a lot of discussion about how competitive the Big 12 could be. But I think the ACC, like the top of the ACC, I think it's going to be really competitive and really fun.
I'll tell you what's interesting is we're going to find out right away.
Yeah.
Clemson has Georgia. Miami has someone early. Who did they have early?
They've got Florida.
Florida early.
On the road.
State
That's Swamp.
Yeah. NC State's got Tennessee, I think, in week 2. So, I mean, there's some games early on where we're going to find out what the ACC is all about.
Should be fun, man. Would you ever want OU to play in a game like this? I was thinking about it. I was just in Dublin last week. Dude, the high was like 73. The low was like 58. The weather was incredible. Went and played golf. Didn't even sweat the entire time, Ted. As long as OU didn't lose a home game, I think doing a game like this every 8 to 10 years, I think it would be awesome. I think it would be so much fun, man. I know that a lot of, as long as you still get your home slate, I think it would be so much fun. To my knowledge, OU's never done anything like this, but could you imagine we get to go to Dublin for the week, play golf, do some shows, call the game. Oh, in cooler weather, it'd be amazing.
I don't know you think the fan base is happy about that? Would be happy about that?
I have no idea.
I know. Like, for me, absolutely. I got no problem. I'll just, we'll find our little spot in the back of the team plane, and we'll just kind of hang around the wherever they go. And
hey, we used to sit on the front row of the plane. Now we're in the last row. I love it.
The last row.
The circle of life.
Like, for me, I think, yeah, sure, sign me up. I don't know how the fan base would react.
I think you could I don't know, you could probably get really creative with like a flight and ticket package or something. I don't know. I was just thinking about it when I was thinking about this Florida State Georgia Tech matchup. I found myself going, it'd be pretty cool if OU did that.
Yeah.
Like Dublin or London or maybe like Germany or, just the places the NFL's playing games.
Yep. Yeah. No, it would be nice to play. I mean, if you're right now, you're Florida State and you're Georgia Tech and you're playing over there and it's going to be 70 degrees and cool by kickoff time compared to playing in just a scorcher swamp down in Tallahassee or in Georgia. I'm sure they're like, this is awesome.
Dublin, currently 64 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Saturday, high of 62. Sleeving it's football up. Weather over there, baby.
Guess the guy's going to be sleeving up out there.
Oh, so jealous. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
Oh, you tailgaters, listen up. We are now officially in the premium conference of college football, and you expect a premium product on the field and on the grill. That's why you need Didier Ranch's steak burgers to take your tailgate to the next level. Proudly raised in Oklahoma for over 120 years, premium beef this good is hard to come by. Go to DidierRanch.com. That's DIDIER ranch.com and use promo code Oklahoma 15 for 15% off your order. Didier Ranch, tradition plays better and tastes better.
They just sent us a new box.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's not going to last long in the Ikard household. I'm so excited. Three things matter in banking: service, service, and service. And First Fidelity Bank's commitment to exceptional service is more than a promise, it's their foundation. FFB has been by your side for over a century, and they are honored to be a part of your journey. Banking isn't about where you've been, it's about where you're headed. Open an account at an award-winning bank today at ffb.com. At First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go.
And head to the garage for hand smash patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. It's the perfect spot to watch any big game. And with all the garage locations being open to 10 p.m. or later every night, it's the go-to late night spot. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
As always, Ted, kicks off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
Those that like drama at USC with Lincoln Riley.
Oh boy.
You know, maybe it's nothing, probably nothing, but I still think it's funny. You know, Pete Carroll won a national championship at USC, won a Super Bowl with Seattle. Everyone remembers that as the glory days of USC, the Heisman Trophy winners, the stars, the big games. Well, he's no longer in Seattle. He's at USC now. He's teaching a class at USC. Not coaching, but he said he hasn't shut the door on coaching. He may still like to get back into it. I mean, that can't make you feel comfortable if you're Lincoln Riley, right?
I thought you were going down the road of the tweet they had announcing Miller Moss as the starter, where it was like Baker, Tyler, Caleb. I was like, wait, those are OU guys. What are you doing? I thought that's where you were headed.
I didn't see that.
You're saying that Lincoln Riley's looking over his shoulder, looking for, how old is Pete Carroll? He's 70 something, man.
72, but he's been old for a long time. He looks young. He's got tons of energy. And I'm not saying anything's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, it can't make you feel good that the guy that everyone wants the program to get back to what it was like whenever he was there, well, he's there now teaching a class. I mean, just like, of all the places, okay. Baker, Kyler, Jalen, Spencer, Caleb, Miller.
From the executive director of recruiting at USC. That would never happen at Oklahoma.
No, that is so weird. A long list of non-USC players.
Strange, right?
Well, that's what happens when you're at the University of Lincoln Riley. It's all about Lincoln. I mean, you got one of the most tradition-rich programs in all of college football, and you go.
Leinart didn't even get a mention, man.
I know. Carson Palmer, no big deal. That's
a weird tweet.
I know.
Speaking of weird, there's some guy that tweets us weekly. He's like, make Teddy tell the story of him taking Leinart to Applebee's. And I've never brought it up, but we just mentioned him. Do you want to tell the story? Or is that for another episode?
I could tell the story. He came here on a recruiting trip, and one of my roommates was hosting him. And We pre-partied at Applebee's a little bit. No big deal.
Was that when they had it was like the $2 Long Island iced teas over there, the one off the highway?
Yeah.
Oh, getting getting some serious trouble over there at that Applebee's. Well, there's your story. You got it.
I think he went and told like said that somewhere or something, and um,
It probably came as a shot against Norman. Like, it took me to Applebee's. Like, oh,
I think it did.
you
But
got drunk, didn't you, buddy?
I'll tell you that he had a lot of fun that night. Okay, I'll just tell you that. So I don't want to. I don't want to hear anything coming out of his mouth. He had a great time.
There you have it, people. Who do you have as your loser of the week?
I had to go with Tua, which I understand the mindset, and I love McDaniel and how he's treated that situation. I think that was exactly how you should handle it. Pump this guy up, give him a ton of confidence. He's a really good player. Um, I guess I don't know that you go out and when you're an active player like that and bring the business side of it out. I guess I don't know. What did you think about that?
So, for those of you that didn't see it, he basically said Brian Flores, who used to be the head coach there in Miami, is now the defensive coordinator for the
Mm-hmm.
Vikings. That he just told him he wasn't good enough all the time, told him he didn't belong, told him he hadn't earned it. Like, it sounded like he was rather tough on Tua.
Mm-hmm.
And as Tua was saying it, I was sitting there going, that doesn't even come close to what Kevin Wilson used to say to me.
That's what I was like. That's my first
Or
2 years
Josh
at
Heupel,
Oklahoma.
even. Like,
Yeah,
I was like, that's bad in your mind. Are you kidding me?
yeah. I mean, it seems like standard protocol.
It made him look a little soft. It did.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think Flores handled it really, really well.
yeah, I do too. I can the way because the question was kind of like, what's the difference been? And I think you can answer that. Like you could just say like all the great things that the McDaniel's done since he's been there. And you could say like it was just different, and you could even throw some of the stuff out there, but you've responded better to it. But I don't know, for whatever reason, it just doesn't. It takes focus off of him and how he's playing in the season, and you stir up something that doesn't need to be stirred up. I guess is what I thought about it.
Completely agree. The dude just signed a $212 million contract.
You're
Let
playing
it go.
well. One of the better offenses in the NFL last year.
You got the
That's right.
best wide receiver in the league on your team. But just say, hey, just talk about how much you love your current coach. I do think Flores said, hey, I wish the best for Tua. I'm worried about my guys here in Minnesota, is essentially what he said when he was asked about it by the media. And yeah, I don't think in the overall situation, don't you think Tua was the loser?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone went, that Brian Flores, what a meanie. I think most football guys' reaction was, I mean, that's nothing that we haven't all been told. Like, get over it. That's kind of what my reaction was, especially when you just signed a $212 million contract. Who
Yeah.
cares? Who cares that
Yeah.
he was mean to you? You're rich.
Yeah. And he didn't play well early on in his career. Okay, there's that too. Maybe part of it is because he was knocked unconscious over and over. But um, I don't know. It just didn't. It
He,
wasn't a good look for Tua, I guess.
he didn't do himself any favors.
No, you opened yourself up to criticism to everyone by doing it.
Uh,
Whenever otherwise, no one has really had anything bad to say about the way he's played over the last couple of years. I think everyone's excited about Miami.
I think it just created an unnecessary storyline and an unnecessary distraction right before the season gets started for the Dolphins. Uh, but we'll all forget about it if they come out there and just light the scoreboard up offensively.
Well, we'll probably forget about it anyways.
That's true.
There'll be something new tomorrow or already.
Yeah. All right, let's get to my winner and loser first.
Insurica has launched a new digital agency. Introducing Insurica Direct. Whether you're in Oklahoma or anywhere across the U.S., they've got you covered, from small business insurance and health insurance for your employees to insurance for individuals like home, auto, and even Medicare supplements. Insurica Direct's got it all. Start your journey today at insuricadirect.com. Remember, at Insurica, we specialize in you.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. The new Stutzman Bowman gear, Ted. What do you think?
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty sweet. Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited for those guys. It's just topical election year. It just, well done, Stutzman and Bowman. Great job. opolisclothing.com, OPOLIS clothing.com, and use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off. opolisclothing.com, promo code TED. Use it. You get 10% off, buttery soft, and 10% off. My winner of the week, college football personnel people. This is an area for, especially for the major programs, has been growing and growing and growing over these last several years. Did you see what Bama's GM got, Ted?
I did.
Courtney Morgan signed a 3-year deal where he will earn an average of $825,000 annually. Morgan came to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer from Washington, had a large role in assembling that Washington roster that played for it all a year ago. I can only imagine what you want to call it, the front office, the personnel department. Can you imagine the personnel department group texts around the country when that thing hit?
They're like either upset that they already signed their contract or whatever, or rubbing their hands and saying, "Oh, buddy, we got some money coming our way."
I saw a lot of people that seem to be making a big deal about this. Is it strange that my initial reaction was, kind of seems like a bargain for Alabama? Because I understand college football, it's not the juggernaut that the NFL is. But top NFL general managers are making like $8 million. Like the top guys are in the 5 to probably somewhere in between 5 and 10. And when you look at it that way, $825,000 a year, it seems like a really good deal, especially when you consider what general managers in college football have to do. I mean, the GMs in the NFL, you evaluate, you manage the roster. You make some tough decisions. Right? You negotiate in free agency. Like that's your thing. You build the roster and everything that comes with it. Right now, for college football general managers, you've got NIL, recruiting, transfer portal, roster retention. You're pretty much, it seems like you're kind of a psychologist as well. You've got this revenue sharing component that's about to be part of it. You've got this 105 roster limit that's about to be part of it. These GMs are doing an insane amount of work, man. Like $825,000 feels like an absolute steal at arguably the premier program in college football. I mean, do you view it differently, Ted? Because when I saw such a strong reaction to the dollar amount, I kind of looked at it and went, you know what? Seems like a bargain for a guy that's going to have to deal with all of that.
Well, here's what the interesting thing is. Like, for example, in the NFL, every team has a GM, or at least I think they do. There's been like Belichick was like coach of GM, so I don't know. But in the NFL, there's like, if I got hired as the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs, I would walk into that building today and there would be all of the process is in place. But GM in college football didn't exist a couple of years ago. And I would still say that I don't know that every team has one. I mean, they have different people handling the duties and all of that, but I don't know that if you go to every Power Four school that they've legitimately got a GM that is doing the GM stuff that we're seeing now. So it's a fairly new thing, and there is no process. So if I walked in and I was hired as the GM of Kansas State and I walked in there, I'd probably have to build our process from the ground up, which is a very difficult thing to do in a changing environment. So I'm with you. Like $825K from, like, it's hard. They're dealing with a lot of things to begin with. It's even more difficult whenever you deal with a lot of things where there's no like real framework that has been built into the system of college football, and you're trying to fit in there some way right now. I mean, 3, 4, 5 years from now, when everything has settled into a comfortable spot, well, then, plug and play at the GM spot. But right now it's a very difficult job.
Very difficult and very time consuming. And I think it's only going to continue to get more and more important. Let's be real. College football is pro football now. That's kind of how it feels to me. And revenue sharing's coming. Roster limits are coming. And it's going to be interesting to see how all of these schools, like the routes they choose to go with their GM position. I do think you're going to see some schools go more with like an evaluator type of guy, evaluating recruits, evaluating transfers, building the roster, like more of like a football guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you're going to see some schools go with more like a cap specialist type guy, like a numbers guy, an analytical type of guy. And they'll let the other people, like the coaches and some of the other personnel people, handle the roster building. I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how each school, what they do with this GM role that I think is going to, it's going to become a staple of college football.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know that number shocked a bunch of people across the country, because I don't think everyone knew that colleges have a GM now. So, and it's a big number, or it feels like a big number. And it's like, are you paying him for what he did at Washington, or because you've already got an incredible roster? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think that maybe that was where some of the hang up is. It's like, what exactly has he done so far? And I don't know. Just trying to figure out what people may have got hung up on with it.
The big question for DeBoer was, is he going to be able to recruit at Bama? They got the number 2 recruiting class in the country right now. They've got well. 6 5-stars committed.
Yeah, they're doing really well.
And I think Courtney Morgan is, and if you organize it by like average star rating, I think it's over like a 94. Like they are in a shocking development. Alabama is crushing it on the recruiting trail, and I think Courtney Morgan is getting a lot of credit for their success.
You think Kalen DeBoer is like, this is the easiest job in the world? What do you mean?
Probably.
You go like his track. You got to go to these places and just grind and figure out a way to try and get in on these players and convince them to come across the country. You go to Alabama, and it's just like a hunt and peck. Like, we want that guy.
Different world, man.
Yep.
All right, my loser of the week. People that enjoy watching people run down on kickoff. The NFL's new kickoff format appears to be succeeding. Ted, I read a great article on The Athletic about it, about what the rule change has done so far in the NFL preseason. And I think the whole point was, hey, let's reduce some of these big collisions and let's get more kickoff returns.
Mm-hmm.
During the preseason over the last 4 years, 54.7% of kickoffs were returned. So far in this preseason, 78% of kickoffs have been returned.
Well, and remember, like that preseason number, 54.7, you got every Tom, Dick, and Harry trying to make the football team, and they're trying to find returners, so they're bringing that ball out whenever they get a chance to.
Last year during the regular season, 21.8% of kickoffs were returned.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. There were 39 kickoff returns. There have been 39 kickoff returns of 30 or more yards this preseason. There are only 97 of those all of last regular season in the NFL.
That is that's a big number of kickoffs too.
Yeah.
For that many teams over 17 games.
Touchback rate this preseason is 19%. It was 73% in the regular season last year in the NFL.
I think that touchback number is going to go down, not up as teams. I think there's still a learning curve going right now, I think, to some degree, don't you?
Yeah, it's possible that when the regular season starts, that teams just say, hey, we don't want to mess with all this. Let's boot it through the end zone, and we're going to let our opponent start at the 30. Some teams may do that, Ted, but you and I both know how how football coaches are wired. They're going to be in those meeting rooms going, we're going to outcoach the other guys. We're smarter. We're better. We're better coaches. They're going to come up with all these schemes. They're going to kick it. They're going to be like, our cover units are going to be better than their return units. You know how these coaches are wired. Yeah. And they tend to think that they are better than who they are coaching against. And I'm hoping that results in a lot of kickoff returns.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the way it's formatted, I think it's way easier to get creative and try and do some stuff, whether you're cross blocking or trapping guys or however you're going to do it. I think it's pretty easy to get creative there. And like I said, there's a learning curve. They're going to find a way over a lot of reps to find some things that work and where they can maybe create some plays. And it's going to be way easier and a safer approach to try and create some explosive plays on people.
So the reason my loser of the week is people that like watching people run down on kickoff is I'm starting to find it difficult to believe that we don't see this kickoff format in college football next season. So if you like watching guys all down the field with the ball being kicked in the air, enjoy it this season, college football fans, because especially if the injury data is good from the NFL season, if they can prove that it's a very safe play, especially from a concussion standpoint, then I just don't see I don't see how there's any way that this isn't in college football next season.
I agree. But if I'm on the competition committee, I'm only agreeing to it if we change this stupid punt rules in college football. Like, if you're going to change the kickoff rule, then I know you can change the punt rule. So change it.
I don't want to spend too much time on this. College football and the NFL should have the same set of rules.
Yes, they should.
Now, there is a debate which rules you should take from college football and which rules you should take from professional football. Like the 1 foot, 2 foot on the on a reception. If we just want to make it all 1 foot, fine. If we want to make it all 2 feet, fine. Just make the damn rules the same. College football players are not like, these are grown men. These guys are incredible athletes. They don't need different rules than the NFL. The set of rules should be the same. It would be easier on players, on coaches, on fans, on broadcasters. Just learn one set of rules for college football in the NFL. Take the best rules from each league, from each level, combine them into one set of rules that we can all know like the back of our hand. It is ridiculous that the hashes are different widths. Some of the most popular formations in college football are illegal in the NFL. Yes. That's insane, man. It makes no sense. Fix it. Same set of rules for college and for the NFL. Just do it. It's not that hard. Just get everyone in the same room. The NFL is going to want every one of their rules to win out. And okay, fine. Fine. We'll all adjust. Just make it one set of rules, Ted.
One set of rules. But if I have to start and I had to pick one, it's the punt. Change the punt rule.
There is nothing more. I don't know. You hate the fair catch on the kickoff probably the most. But the fact that I think a little piece of your soul dies every time someone gets in that spread punt formation with the three guys in the back. And I had to do that in college, and I hated it.
Well, yeah, you hate it. What's to hate about standing there and let someone have a 10-yard run at you, smash directly into you? Ugh. Like, are we really about safety or not? Everyone knows no one's about safety. They're only about creating more money, and so why they stay in that punt formation, I have no idea. It's ridiculous. It's the dumbest thing ever. The fact that everyone finally caught on to how stupid the rules are of punt in college football and everyone started running, it has set that single play back into the Stone Age. You can't hardly ever return a punt at all. It's like the rarest thing in college football now to see any type of nice punt return.
Do we even want to talk about the illegal man downfield stuff? Do we want to go down the RPO rabbit hole? I don't want to yell.
No. It's been a good day. It's okay.
This is all I'll say. An inside linebacker should not be getting blocked by an interior offensive lineman and also trying to defend a slant that is being thrown in behind him.
No.
Just make the NFL rule the college rule. You get 1 yard as an O lineman. And that's to sell play action. You get 1 yard. One of my favorite things throughout the college football season is me sending you clips of inside backers being blocked 5 yards down the field with the quarterback releasing the football, throwing it to a receiver.
I saw it at the OU scrimmage the other day, and they had the referees there, and I was like, what is he doing? If the guy is right in front of him. And it was clearly like a bust by one of the offensive linemen. He was like, I think he was blocking the low safety. And they threw like a ball right by him, and he was blocking the safety, and the guy came underneath him. It was ridiculous. No flag.
We've said enough. On that note, episode 450 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Sunday. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. And until next time, we appreciate you all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.